I feel like it's director's therapy session. It's so nice to hear other people going through it. I'm like, okay.
I mean, this is also this, I don't know, we don't get, I feel largely, I think we're very siloed from each other as directors.
Yeah.
We don't get to hang with other directors as much. I mean, this guy right here is very good at forming community. And
kid painting.
Model kid painting. We get together on Sundays and paint models together. And he's wonderful at it. And it's something that has woken me up to how little we get it. And the reality is this whole...
You can talk shop.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Like, which is very rare.
Therapy and like, yeah.
If you talk shop, you learn one or two tools. Like somebody in the Model Kid Club said, if the credits were right, he would read a film by the film.
Yeah.
Which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It is so beautiful.
Hello, and welcome to the Los Angeles Times Envelope Directors Roundtable. I'm Mark Olson. Let's meet our guests and hear about the films that brought them here today. John M. Chu completes his adaptation of the epic Wizard of Oz prequel musical with Wicked for Good.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz. No one believed in you more than I did.
Nia DaCosta transports Henrik Ibsen's Hedda Gabler to one unforgettable night at a country estate in the 1950s with Hedda.
Aren't you so brave?
Guillermo del Toro reimagines Mary Shelley's haunting and heartbreaking tale of a mad scientist and his creation in Frankenstein. Mona Fastvold wrote and directed the historical musical drama The Testament of Anne Lee, which tells the story of the founder of the Shaker religion.
After true righteousness, I hunger and thirst.
Rian Johnson gives us the newest installment of his Knives Out mystery series, Wake Up Dead Man, in which investigator Benoit Blanc tries to solve the strange murder of a Monsignor.
I've taken an interest in the murder of Jefferson Wicks.
And Benny Safdie brings the story of pioneering MMA fighter Mark Kerr to life in the biographical sports drama The Smashing Machine.
Hi, I'm Mark Kerr, and I'm representing American Freestyle Wrestling, and I'm here at the World Valley 203.
Welcome, everyone. And now, we know all of you as a group of filmmakers, but I want to begin by talking about movie-going. I'm curious if you have a favorite seat in the theater, if there's like things that you need to do to like sort of like get the most out of going to the movies. Guillermo, I feel like you must have an opinion about this.
Well, I like two seats, number one, and middle, first quarter, top of the first quarter. So I need a little distance, but I want to see the movie before anyone else behind me. So, ideally where your peripheral vision is occupied by the whole screen, but not beyond that.
And Nia?
Similar middle, but top of the first third, I would say. Yeah, that's where I'm really like, we're here. We're in it. Yeah.
Benny, where do you like to sit?
I know that it's best to be in the middle, but I prefer the aisle because I move around a lot. It's not that I want to like get up and leave. It's just that I fidget and I move my legs and I don't want to bother anybody and I'm always very aware of like
two seats.
That's the other thing is I always need somebody to move next to me.
Oh.
It's a whole thing. Because I don't want to bother anybody, and I know that if you were sitting behind me, it would be an annoying experience. In front of me or behind me, so I try to limit that. So in a way, it does get in the way of how I view a movie. But I like to be comfortable. That's really the main thing.
Yeah, I'm dead center. Maybe like 2 rows above, but I am obsessed with making sure the sound is loud enough. So I make sure they're at reference. I go talk to the manager. This has got to be at a 7. This is where they want, and they sometimes oblige and sometimes don't.
And now, can you tell if you think the sound system isn't up to scratch?
Yes, I can tell if the speaker's out. I'm like, and then it really ruins it.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah.
And Mona, what about you? Do you have a preferred seat?
No, it's similar. Center, a little bit back. But also, yes, I'm obsessed with the sound as well. 7.5.
Okay.
That's where I want it. I want even louder. And I like to be in the middle, but my partner needs to be in the aisle. So it's a compromise. It's usually a compromise because he'll be like the same like you. He'll have to fidget, move around, get up, needs to have clear exits.
Right.
I look for wherever Guillermo's sitting, and I come.
Take the seat that I buy for you.
I sit on his lap.
Yeah.
Best seat in the house. It depends on the theater. Like at the New Beverly in LA, I like the front row, actually, because there's enough space and because the sound system used to be so terrible. I think Quentin's upgraded it now, but it used to be you had to sit in the front. I know it's best in the back, or in the middle, but I kind of like taking funky ass seats. I kind of like being like in the back way on the side for certain ones and kind of like just.
That happens to me at the Ira.
Oh yeah.
I like a funky seat in the back next to the ramp.
It switches up your perspective on the whole thing.
I like going front at like an IMAX kind of situation.
The Matrix Part 2, I did that.
Because sometimes that's the only thing that you're there. And like, it just, I like having that strange, you're forced into it.
Also, I like when you're in a bad seat because you're like thinking like, well, somebody
sits there.
Yeah, they sell this seat.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm going to sit there. I want to feel what that's like.
You're a man of the people.
A real mensch, yeah.
And now, John, I've heard you say that with Wicked for Good, you wanted the film to be deeper but not darker. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, it really doesn't pull any punches as far as like dealing with themes of anti-authoritarianism, ideas against the patriarchy. Mm-hmm. What was it like to have those sort of, very serious ideas and yet still have this be sort of a buoyant, crowd-pleasing musical?
Well, the reason we made it was because it had that meat to it. And it was always a sort of 2-movie year-long experience. We set up the fairy tale first. You get all the bounce and fun of a musical, and we set up the idea that, okay, you step out and you're going to conquer. And movie 2 was kind of where we all are, is this moment of the fairy tale shattered in front of us. And how do we pick up the stories from there? And what do we tell? I have 5 children now, and so I'm a new father in a way. It's only been 8 years, but still, it's a lot of things happened all at once. So I'm thinking about how to present stories to my kids. Do I still believe in the possibility of dreams and the American dream? And so For Good really gets to delve into that stuff. And because it was shorter than the first half, we get more room to do it. We added new songs to explore that idea, and everything was changing around us. So it all sort of like felt really like fitting. Movie 1 could be an answer. Movie 2 is much more of a challenge to everybody else. Who are we going to be now that we know the truth?
I'm taking you to see the wizard.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
No. This is between the wizard and I.
I understand, but you have to trust me. I know how to talk to him, and maybe I could help work something out.
Guillermo, you've talked about Frankenstein as being a lifelong dream project. What is it like for you to finally have it out of your system?
Well, there's a massive postpartum depression. Number one, and it's real, and it affected me more than I thought it would, to be candid. But the other thing is, fortunately, I've been very interested in 2 new themes that are going to be sure to produce blockbusters, which is memory and regret. the dynamic duo of past 60. And I always thought about that in an abstract, but now I try to make the movies not only about the moment I'm in, but about me. I seriously try to express what makes me uneasy, what makes me believe, the possibilities of grace, or even in the most horrible circumstances. And I'm not talking only social, but personal or philosophical. And, something happens when the 6 clicks in on the counter. And I'm gonna go to that. I mean, all you can do is, do I feel I have something to say, genuinely, and then you go to that.
And if you have it in your heart, forgive yourself into existence. If death is not to be, then consider this, my son, while you are alive. What recourse do you have but to live?
Now is the time to scare yourself into being young again in a strange way. Like I want to try tools that I've never, and Frankenstein culminates a style of shooting with the techno, a style of designing more operatic with visual gestures and color palettes and this and that. So the sort of the painterly gliding style. And now if I did it after this, then I would be repeating myself. So I'm very intrigued by going for a very different camera work. Like Cronenberg, I had dinner with him when he was turning 74. And he said that. He said, you have to scare yourself into being young. again. He says, you try things that you haven't tried. Say, and this I do in every movie. Before I do every movie, I say, what am I doing different as a human being in this movie? And this is a very serious question I'm doing next.
Rian, you've talked about how with Wake Up Dead Man, it was a very personal story for you. It deals with your upbringing and your own sort of relationship to religious faith. Was it difficult to be vulnerable in that kind of a way, to make a story that feels this personal to you?
Yeah, this was definitely the heart, but I think it goes exactly to what Guillermo was saying. Catholic, yeah, you're Catholic. I'm Protestant.
I'm lapsed.
Me too. I'm a lapsed Protestant. A lot of connective tissue there. But it goes to what Guillermo said, which is especially, for me, this, I am at the third one in this series of movies, but I don't really think of them as just continuing a series. For me, every one has to be something that is scary in its own way, because I'm not sure if I know how to do it, and because it's forcing me personally into, something you said I think is so true, is that, and I think we all probably I find this more and more with each movie, that you realize you're working hard to make a work of art that you are proud of, but at the end of the day, your experience making it is what you're going to keep and move forward with in life.
Biography. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, that is going to translate to what the thing is in a direct way also. But first and foremost, you got to be growing with every movie personally, and you have to be making yourself uncomfortable and digging into this thing of faith, which I grew up very, very Christian. It was a very personal thing for me up through my early 20s, and I'm not a believer anymore. And so it's something I have a lot of ideas and feelings about. And being able to, first of all, challenge myself. Can I explore those in the context of what is supposed to be a big, entertaining, fun murder mystery movie?
Everyone thinks I did it. I didn't do it. But in my heart, maybe I did, and the way it happened was some kind of miracle. And I don't know. I'm lost. I don't know. Would you allow me to help you?
Wake Up Dead Man is specifically set in the year 2025, and really all the Knives Out pictures have been dealing with our sort of contemporary reality. What is it that you kind of want to be exploring there? What makes you want to do that?
Well, that kind of started for me with like the first movie with Knives Out, and that this is a genre, the murder mystery genre, that I love and that I'm just seen so much of growing up. But it's also a genre where most of what I had seen throughout my whole life, murder mysteries are period pieces set in, usually in England, and usually in like a cozy little bubble of like a little Queensfordshire place in England. And I guess my realization was that's not what Agatha Christie did. She was not writing period pieces. She wasn't an incredibly political writer, but she was always writing to her time. So it was just the idea of it's not trying to do anything radical in terms of making it new or updating it or something. It's just trying to do it really, really well, but let's set it very much unapologetically in the modern moment. The murder mystery is a great, the fact that you have a group of suspects that have a hierarchy of power amongst them, and the person at the top, they all want to bump off. It's such a potent vehicle for building a little microcosm of society. Mm-hmm. And so why not use that to kind of have fun looking at the world around us right now?
Mona, for you with Ann Lee, it's about the origins of the Shaker movement. Did you find that there were challenges in trying to depict religious faith on film?
Yes. It's hard because I really did. I didn't want to raise a finger and judge her or her attempt. And at the same time, I couldn't become a Shaker. I couldn't become a believer as well. So it's finding that space in between, which I'm sure you also really dealt with in the film as well, where you're like, where do I stand with these characters, and how can I go on a journey with them, and when can I sort of take a step back and observe them and and be critical of the choices that they make, but sort of finding that balance. And for me also, it was a lot about finding that balance between there's moments that are comedic. They're absurd. It's a time period also where there's a bit of this sort of openness and naivete because you don't know how everything works. So perhaps this is the solution. Perhaps, there are these wonders of the world that they're still discovering, and there's something quite sweet about that as well, and endearing. So finding that balance between letting it be funny and comedic, or letting it be serious and tender and graceful. It's a fine balance. It's a fine balance in the direction. It's a fine balance in the edit. I find, where you're constantly like leaning a little bit too far in one direction, and then it doesn't work, and then
You're making a historical piece, but were you thinking about contemporary themes as you were making the film?
Yeah, it was hard not to. Of course, it's about this woman who's creating a whole new societal structure. She's trying to create this utopian society with complete equality between gender and race, and the late 1700s. So to think that happened, that existed, that someone tried to do that so many years ago, and then to look at where we are now, it's impossible not to sort of think about what would have happened if someone could have continued to build on those ideas, instead of repressing it and just erasing her from history.
Because, Nia, with Hedda and moving the film to the 1950s, were you still thinking of the sort of contemporary resonances that story was going to have?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think especially because I was focusing a lot on women being suppressed and oppressed, but not just by society, but by themselves and what they've internalized. I knew that would be a perennial sort of issue, or something that would light people up perennially. But the 50s I also chose because it's recognizable to us now. Like, I chose sort of like a murder mystery sort of trapping for the film, the English estate, because those are recognizable sort of spaces in which we tell parables, essentially. And so I wanted to be in conversation with that, still have it be period, still have it be genre-y, but absolutely wanted people of the now to be able to look at that and say, oh, I recognize myself, unfortunately, in this character.
Hedda is such a bold adaptation of Hedda Gabler. Yeah. You switch the gender of one of the main characters. You aren't afraid to inject issues of race and class and sexual identity into the story. What gave you the confidence to sort of like add all this to that story?
I wrote it on spec, so I wasn't thinking about anything besides letting my freak flag fly, basically. I genuinely, I read it when I was 22 and pretty immediately thought, oh, this is really interesting. I'm like seeing something beyond the text here. And at the time when I read it, I was getting my master's in the UK, and the way we worked with text, especially theater text, was like, what's the play within the play? And that's kind of how I approach all drama now, because you kind of give the actors the character, they give the character back to you, and in that you are like, oh, that's what I was saying. That's what that is. And so with Hedda, I just thought, this character makes more sense as a woman. Okay, what does that mean now? How does that affect the rest of the story? And then I just go from there. And then it ended up being really bountiful and really generative. And then, when I met Tessa, 3 years later, I thought, oh, when I write this eventually, Tessa will play Hedda. So now she's black. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, that actually offers a lot of opportunity as well, especially in her relationship to her father. And Tessa's also mixed race, so then you get that element of it as well. And then I chose the 50s, and then I chose England and the country house, and it's almost like research when you're finding out these truths. You just treat these things as truths, and then the story has to go in a certain direction. So I never worry about those things. Maybe because I'm a black woman, so I'm like, well, my presence or my identity for some people will complicate the story. But for me, it just is life. So that humanity, I just let live in the story.
We were mad together. I would have been dead. By your hand or mine if I'd stayed. Why did you come here? To make sure I didn't love you.
I think that's what I loved about watching the movies. Like every scene, those things would come up that I didn't realize were questions even in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what happens when it's a woman? What happens when the Like that was really great as a journey of
oh, great! I'm glad. I'm really glad. Yeah.
Like, why would if you're not interpreting Ibsen, like, what's the point to me?
That's what I think. Yeah.
I mean, we've read everyone knows the plays. We know the plays. We know what he had to say. So what's exciting is really the conversation that you are having with Ibsen. Yeah. That's exciting to me. Yeah. And it tickles me to think of him seeing
love work as a woman, which is he's kind of.
It would piss him off,
Nina and I talk about because he's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like one of those sort of Chekhovian characters where it's like, I'm so brilliant and I'm sad. What do I do? And I'm like, girl, relax. Yeah. I'm like, well, if you were a woman, actually, then I'm like really engaged in that struggle. So yeah, it would be really interesting to see what he.
It's great.
Yeah.
Benny, Dwayne Johnson brought the project to you. And in some ways, you're like helping facilitate someone else's dream project. And just what was it like for you? And in knowing that this was such a different role for Dwayne, how did you sort of like help him get to where he wanted to go?
Well, it's interesting because like normally when that happens, it's almost like, oh, no way, because it's like, there's just a knee-jerk reaction like, oh, what are the chances you're going to align with what I'm thinking? But it just so happened that like when he brought this idea, this character, and then I watched the documentary and I see Mark, there was something about that like, oh, what I like about Mark and what I'm intrigued about him is the same exact thing that Dwayne is intrigued by. And so I realized that there was something that we could do together to try and understand what it exactly was about this person that was so interesting to us. And I think it was a mystery a little bit that we were trying to figure out as we were going through, because there was, like, the thing that's interesting is there was this document of what happened, It's so filmed, it's there, you can see it. When you say it with your lungs, it changes something. And that was something that I found really interesting, is that when Dwayne approached trying to understand Mark as a person, something happened. And you could see him in these situations expressing himself through this other person's experience. And then it became, okay, and then to touch on what we were all talking about before, which is like, well, challenge yourself in how you tell a story and do something different in a way. And it's like, okay, well, if that's what I'm exploring here, let's really make it feel like we're with this person. And time slows down a little bit. You're in these weird moments of like just nothingness. But a lot happens in those moments. And watching somebody, in a way, try to become somebody else is part of it,
Hi, I'm Mark Kerr, and I'm representing American Freestyle Wrestling, and I'm here at the World Valley 203 to prove that it's the best fighting style.
And that is wrestler Mark Kerr, 6'1", 260 pounds from Toledo, Ohio. And again, his specialty is freestyle wrestling, and this is his first professional fight.
Benny, you mentioned your brother Josh. This is your first solo-directed film, feature film without him. He has his own film coming out soon. What has it been like for the two of you kind of navigating this time, making these projects on your own?
It's been interesting because you kind of have, in a similar thing to like Frankenstein, you have this thing that you've been thinking about for a very long period of time. And for us, that was Uncut Gems, like this thing that we always wanted to make. And then when you make it, you come to this place of like, okay, well, now what do I want to do with my life? Because that was always the focus for so long. And in the process of that, we had done so many other things just as like kind of forks in the road. And so when that was finished, it really became like, okay, well, now what? Basically. And then it just like meant like kind of like, all right, well, let's explore different things and different kind of ways of telling a story. And it kind of is like, that's kind of how we started, before in college. We came together, and then now we're just exploring things kind of separately in that way. But it definitely is a lot of that where it's like, well, what do I want to look at? What is it that I want to see? And I don't know. That's just kind of how you approach it.
John, Guillermo, you both are working at such a scale in your movies, both in matter of the size of the sets, the size of the cast, the budgets. John, just the florist credits alone on Wicked for Good are very impressive. What is it like for the two of you working at that kind of scale?
Yeah, I mean, we have every department. It's like building Disneyland, essentially. At the warehouses we'd be going, there's first a recording studio, so we're recording music while their dance rehearsals are going on. You have hundreds and hundreds of people. Then you go to the costumes department, and you have the hair, just the wigs alone. People are getting there at 2:30 in the morning, and that's before you even start the day. And yet, when you get on the day, and I don't know if you have this issue as well, but like, I want to play on that day.
Yeah.
We just spent 9 months and we were planning 2 movies at the same time. So we had 20-something musical numbers rehearsed and worked with our cinematographer and our team to understand everything and build sets around these pieces. And then you get on the day and you're like, how do I say, hey, all that stuff we did, this actually is happening over here. Let's move everything over here. I felt the hardest thing was being okay with wasting money if it was the right thing to do at that moment. And so that every moment, these girls, Cynthia and Ariana, are amazing. They're digging into these truths of these scenes that have been done many, many times, but they're digging into new things. And I needed to feel free and had everybody aware that if I'm moving all of a sudden, like, we got to go. And we got to figure it out. And I think that's where the magic of
so you don't get locked in. Yeah. Because otherwise, because that's the thing that's so hard is like when you're building that world, you inherently know it's finite, but when you make those turns, that's what you're like, oh, wait, maybe there is something around that corner, you know?
You almost have to forget about stuff. It feels like that when I see your
movie. To me, there are three things. The first one is tonal. Meaning, everything that you do, you're not doing eye candy, you're doing eye protein, you're telling a story. So it's not about looking good or looking big, it's about, does the gesture happen at the right moment? Is the audience affected by that gesture? Because you can make gestures on the wrong moment of the film and they go by or they are not registered, they don't have a dramatic impact. But if they do, that's the first question. Tonal, because also everything works to allow the creature to exist. You know, when I say we designed the movie for the creatures to feel real, of a piece with the world. So that's the first one. The second one, I think, is it expressing something different every time we go to a bigger thing? Or it's not about the scale. It's like the childhood is very limited palette, black, white, and red. The red carries through. The opening is white, blue, and gold. Victor is full palette. The creature is a different palette that is more earth, moss, woods. It becomes a fairy tale. You know, so when you're doing that, you're still conducting a largo, an allegro, and you're conducting an aria. You know, so you're thinking about, am I doing I always tell my crew and my designer team, I say, be aware and be wary of the big ideas, because they're mostly shit. Find ideas that size themselves to delivering a piece of drama. And that's the final one, to me, is, does it feel, real in the world? You know, because if you do one misstep and all of a sudden it's a movie, and you're not in a movie moment, that's a big problem. So the way I go at it is there's no typeface, no paint, no photograph, nothing can be not investigated and designed to within an inch of its life, so that when you see it, you say, yeah, that's even great movies. I'm very fidgety. I go, that's not a painting from the 1930s. That's a painting, somebody painted it much later, or a typeface or a carnival banner or something like that. So at the end of the day, if you do your job right, as you do, you have a world, and people just get into it almost like a vibe. Nobody should notice, but they go into a vibe, and if you do it right, they want to experience it over and over again. They they want to get that flavor.
Ryan, do you find you have to know, like, when and how to pick your battles? Like, do you have to know, like, what's sort of worth really, like, holding your ground and fighting for?
Well, I think it's, I mean, look, the one thing where quote unquote fighting comes into play is just against resources, which I think we all experience, whether it's time during the day, whether it's budget of this or that, then that becomes a real struggle. I think if you walk into something with the language of fighting for what you want with the collaborators you're going into, then you've got yourself in trouble from the get-go. I think the reality is, you have to walk in, and part of your job is to set the tone from the very start that, like Guillermo said, we're all one department here. We're all working to tell this story as powerfully as it can be told. You're the one who wrote it, so you have a very strong perspective coming in, but that includes coming in and knowing you're working with a bunch of talented artists who are going to be bringing things, and you need to listen to them too. And if
you have to get them on board. Like if they're having if they're saying, oh, this isn't important, you have to get them to understand why it is. And it's not fighting. It's just like, oh, I didn't explain that clearly enough, you know?
And beyond that, many, many times they have something I never thought of that is a better thing. That is suddenly, oh, wait a minute. Or it sparks something in me where I'm like, okay, not that, but that leads me to think this, and that's even, and that then the process becomes not just executing this plan you had, which will never work or feel alive. Then it is like taxidermy, like you said. Then it becomes a living, breathing process with your collaborators.
You pray for it.
You want it to be alive all the time.
That's what it needs to be. Yeah.
Mona, with Ann Lee, but also with The Brutalist, it seems like the movies that you and Brady Corbet are collaborating on together, you're doing so much with relatively limited resources. Like, I've heard audiences gasp when Brady would say, like, what the budget or the schedule was on The Brutalist. Is there a trick to it? Like, what is it that the two of you are doing in the films that you make together that it seems like you're able to make the film seem so grand when you're still working on relatively limited means?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's no trick. It's really just what you all were talking about, which is that I did start prep. I did prep for 9 months as well, or longer than I prepped for almost a year for this one, because I knew that no one was going to give me a lot of money to make a movie about the founders of the Shakers, a musical about the founders of the Shakers. It was not going to be this sexy pitch, you know. It was a hard pitch, so I knew that it was going to be a limited budget. But at the same time, I just desperately wanted Ann Lee to have a really grand story, and I wanted there to be a believable, lush world, and I wanted to tell a story about her whole life, not just a day in her life. So I had to make it work somehow. But it was so much about saying, okay, I'm working with my DP and my production designer, my costume designer every weekend and night for months and months before we started official prep, so that we were we were working so closely together, and same with my choreographer and composer, and with all of the cast as well, just rehearsing. Even if Amanda was rehearsing at night while she was shooting something else, she would go and have dance rehearsals at nights or on the weekends with us, so we could keep on adjusting.
I hunger and thirst, I hunger and thirst after true righteousness. I hunger and thirst, I hunger and thirst.
I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned is being a director. You're like, you don't have a right to make your movie because it costs so much and you need so much help. You do have to earn the right to make your movie, and there's so many decisions and how you tell the story and how creative you are to actually get people to convince you to make a movie. That is a part of our job. And then when you're making the movie, the pressure's on, and how are you going to convince people to stay on or give you more to do your thing? I just think as a storyteller, it's like, yes, you're making the movie, but you're storytelling all the time. Like, I'm fascinated with how you're able to do all the types of movies that you do and how you convince people that you can do it. It's like, it's really amazing.
I'm very convincing. Yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit, because you come to Hedda having just made a Marvel movie. You've just also finished a sequel to 28 Years Later, a zombie horror movie.
Yeah. Excuse me, they're infected, but continue.
Sorry. The infected horror movie. That, to you, is there a through line to these very different seeming movies, or do you like leaning into what's different from one to the other?
Being a nerd, I think. Marvel, horror, like comic books, another horror, for me, those things I've done that I haven't written are worlds that I loved as a kid. So Candyman was hugely important to me when I was younger. So much part of my middle school bathroom experience, not doing it. People trying to get me to do it.
Don't even think.
Marvel, exactly. Not doing it. I've still never done it. Used to love Marvel comics as a kid. 28 Days Later is one of my formative films that I watched. And so when the opportunities came up to be a part of those worlds, it was really exciting for me. And then Hedda, I'm a theater nerd too. So, I think it's just, I really go by my passion, and I'm really compelled by just interesting characters. And, I think Hedda and 28 Years Later are very different films, but for me, they were so similar because I've learned from my experience jumping into the studio system after making a sub-$1 million movie, what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And what works for me is really being given authorship. And so your question about what battles do you fight? I'm setting the tone early. We're not here to battle. We're here to make the vision that I have. And if you're into it, cool and great, let's work together. If you're not into it, then it doesn't have to exist, or I'll find another way for it to exist. But for me, that's what I'm really led by is my passion for the thing, and then also how to make it happen.
I think that the important, for me, the ambition should always be beyond the budget.
Yeah.
And you have to, if they give you 130, you want to make a movie that is 260. But the way that I found by doing Devil's Backbone, which is 3 million, or Shape of Water, which is 19.3, or the variations, what I think is now and then you say what I said before, the gesture. When do I deploy the gesture? Like Shape of Water opened with all the different sets in the first 15 minutes, and then it's 2 sets. Lab, apartment, lab.
It's like when the magician holds the yes. Oh, look, no strings.
It's a really big movie.
Yeah.
It is. Let's go so if you, I always tell the departments, let's choose meatballs and gravy. Where do we put the real resources for people to go, well, this is this or this is that, and then you reach a plateau, no matter what. No matter what the budget. So you need to know, never spend money on a plateau. It always needs to mean something.
Guillermo, you've been very outspoken in your criticism of AI and filmmaking. What is it about it that concerns you the most? Do you feel like it's something that's being forced on filmmakers?
Look, I cannot speak about engineering, chemistry, mathematics, architecture. I don't know. But creatively, I don't know of any artist that raised their hand and said, we need AI.
Yeah, no, it's
nobody. It's somebody that's stepped into the middle of the party, charted, and now it wants to be applauded for it.
Yeah.
It's like, and now we have to welcome it. Why? I mean, creatively, and AI is implicitly there in particle systems and things like that. But generative AI is a different conversation, and I don't think it's something that you can accept without realizing that if you get to the middle faster, you're not doing process. You can get to the middle, sort of middle solutions that are neither inspired nor revolutionary, nor and you didn't go through the problem solving to get there in an organic or instructive way for an artist. So, look, I only have thoughts on that because I think that the aesthetic resulting from it devalues the most sacred pact between mankind and the image, which is a pact that goes back to Altamira or goes to the icons of a church. There is a sacredness to image and humanity that when you nullify it, you're nullifying something that is quite essential. People left their mark through images, through their experience, their pain, their failure, their joy, their success. And this is what one way or another we do. So ones and zeros did not go to turmoil, did not lose a son, did not sing about it. It's only what it does to us. The greatest crimes to civilization have been done in the name of convenience. And the greatest change on architectural pride was the car. Not architecture, nothing revolutionary in architecture, the car. All of a sudden, the streets became 3 times wider. You had a parking lot. And the ramifications of this in the creation of image does concern me.
And we're gonna choose. We choose. They have robots that can play soccer, but we don't, as an audience, watch that because it doesn't have the emotion. It doesn't have the thing. We're gonna choose what's art, whether that's vandalism or street art that we respect. And so I think we will choose the right thing. And I think the bigger, actually, we can talk about generative AI, all that stuff. The bigger crime against creativity is this infiltration of our curiosity. Yeah. We're scrolling now, and we used to trust our curiosity, follow your curiosity. Now these algorithms have figured out what we're curious about and is going to guide us into other avenues. That is the most dangerous thing. And we have to be aware of your creativity, be skeptical of your creativity. Oh my God.
But I think that the word, there's 2 things. One is, I don't think it's even curiosity. They are aware of your proclivity, which is very different. What you frequent doesn't mean that's all you desire. And the second one, I can run 100 meters in my moped faster than Usain Bolt. That doesn't make me Usain Bolt. I'm on my moped. Is the process that dignifies the result.
Rian, your previous film Glass Onion had a more robust theatrical release than what Dead Man's going to be getting. Do you feel like as filmmakers that you all are being put in this position of like fighting for the future of theaters and moviegoing?
Well, I think that our power to fight for it is. Look, I feel incredibly optimistic at this moment about the future of movie making. I don't feel that way because we're all picking up signs and marching down the street and preaching to people that they need to keep this sacred. I feel optimistic about it because I go to movie theaters and I see them packed with young people who want to go to movie theaters and have that experience. And I see them coming out for new movies. I see them at revival cinemas. I see theaters at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday showing a Melville film that are just full of young people who are excited to. I feel like there is, and then you see it with with movies that have come out this year. You see it with something like Ryan's movie with Sinners, or with so many films that have like struck chords with audiences and created cultural events in ways that you can't tell people you should be. You can't wag your finger at people and say, you should be going to the theater and having this theatrical experience. But you feel it rising right now. And so,
it came back on its own.
Yeah, that's right.
Completely.
And so for me, it's less that, I don't know, it's less that I want to advocate it for it. It's more that I want to ride that wave of it coming up, because I think it is, yeah.
And before we're out of time, I just wanted to ask one more question, which is simply, is there a specific fear or insecurity that you feel like you've learned to get over as a director? Nia?
Just the fact that I'm a director. I think I used to feel, especially because I made this jump into like studio film and then like an even bigger studio film, just trusting my instinct and like being right and knowing I was right. And I think in earlier films I was right, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'm not right. Now I'm like, if I feel I'm right, then I'm probably right. But if I'm not right, then that makes sense, because my department heads are amazing. My producers that I can choose now are here to support me make my film. We're not like in an antagonistic, relationship. So I think that was a big thing for me, just being like, oh, my instinct is often correct, and that's why I'm a director.
For me, I think in a weird way, it's similar of being, and similar to you too, is like being in this world of making studio movies. Can what we make matter? Do people care? I remember doing Now You See Me Too at the time, and you're just trying to like stay in the job. I didn't do independent movies. I didn't do commercial music. I like got gifted into this world, by a lot of generosity and trust. And so I always wanted to prove myself. And then when Crazy Rich Asians happened, that was the one I was like, I want to talk about the scariest thing in my life, about my cultural Asian, my identity, my cultural identity crisis, because then are people all going to look at me as like just the Asian director from now on, which is like my fear all growing up. But when I saw the power of what that movie could do, how it could change casting, it could change all these things, and it wasn't because of that movie, but as part of a whole group of people changing things, I realized how sacred this space is. When the lights turn off and you have a deal with the audience and they're giving you money, value, before they even know what it is, and you're sitting and you have a corporation spending money to say these people are beautiful and this story is important, and you're sitting down and then you're with your phone off and you're saying, tell me a story. I don't even spend 2 hours talking to the people I love the most in a day, let alone you give the space for a movie. And if there's anything louder, maybe politicians can change things and whatever, but movies can do that too. And I think dreaming big in movies, saying you don't have to make movies that are necessarily just pessimistic and cynical, that they're movies that can actually show a vision of who we want to be. Even if it's a fantasy. Yeah, a little spoonful of sugar is fine. But like, if you actually are digging at truth and bring people into this fold, I do think it has such power. And that's why I think we really do need to defend this space. And I think the young people are seeing it and feeling it. But I think that is like really, protected space for us. So I think for me, it's like, no, we can, even in something like Wicked, even in this time, that we can say something, and maybe that gives someone the challenge of their lifetime. Like, courage doesn't expire. That at any time you can pop your bubble and not be performative and actually engage. And I think that will never leave me.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you to all of you. I think we've answered some big questions here today, and I appreciate it.
It was a great job steering through all that.
We solved it all.
We figured it out.
Exactly.
Fate. Done. All of us. Group effort.
And thank you so much for your time, all of you. This has been a great conversation. And so for The Envelope and the Los Angeles Times, I'm Mark Olson. Thanks for watching.
An underseen classic that I would recommend, the Michael Jackson music videos.
I think that one of the neglected great Frankenstein movies of the Universal cycle is Son of Frankenstein.
My favorite film of all time, I think it is another unconventional biopic, which is Andrei Rublev.
So I would say Festin or A Celebration.
There was a very good Father Brown movie starring Alec Guinness. Good luck finding that one.
There are two kind of fighting movies. One is Fat City, the John Huston, and then Requiem for a Heavyweight.